ceasefire resolution that Russia and China just vetoed at the UN isn't actually a ceasefire. The resolution the US proposed says that there's an imperative for an immediate ceasefire, but it never actually calls on Israel to stop its massacre. The corporate media is reporting that Russia and China have just vetoed a ceasefire, but don't actually tell you that Russia and China vetoed the resolution precisely because the ambiguous language would allow Israel to continue its massacre. And that's exactly what the US and Israel wanted. They proposed this resolution knowing it would be vetoed, so every headline in all the major news networks would say Russia and China vetoed a ceasefire. This is part of a clear strategy emerging within the US ruling class to flip the narrative by making it look like the US wants a ceasefire and that it's the Palestinians who are blocking it. A few weeks ago, Kamala Harris came out and announced that she wanted to see a ceasefire in Gaza, which shocked everyone. The video circulated like wildfire, and the corporate media was running headlines praising Kamala Harris, saying, "Kamala Harris has proposed a ceasefire." But if you actually watch the full clip, Kamala Harris says immediately after that she's calling for a 6-week temporary ceasefire, one that's already on the table.
There must be an immediate ceasefire for at least the next 6 weeks, which is what is currently on the table.
The ceasefire proposal she's referring to is the Israeli one, which would pause the fighting for 6 weeks, during which Israel would get all of its prisoners back, and then the genocidal invasion of Rafah would continue. The ceasefire that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, and all of these US diplomats have come out in support of isn't actually a ceasefire that would end the war. It's literally Israel's exact negotiating position being repackaged as a ceasefire, one that would pause the fighting long enough so that Israel can get all of its people out, which would then allow Israel to decimate Rafah without having to worry about any domestic backlash. Israel has been clear from day one that their goal is the total takeover of Gaza and the destruction of the resistance. So the word ceasefire is essentially being co-opted by the Biden administration here. And we have to start asking what people mean when they use the word ceasefire. The Biden administration is trying to confuse people by saying they support a ceasefire, but the ceasefire they're proposing is completely different from the ceasefire the vast majority of the world wants, which is a permanent end to the genocide.